What if I told you a 1973 half-dollar could be hiding in your drawer right now, and might be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars? Not because of its silver, but because of minting secrets, collector demand, and hidden varieties. This is the story of how one simple coin became a piece of American treasure history. The year is 1973. The United States of America is undergoing massive social and economic change. The Vietnam War is winding down. The Watergate scandal is exploding across headlines, and inflation is beginning to rise through the American economy. But in the midst of these historical waves, the United States Mint continues its steady production of coinage. One of the coins minted in large quantities during this year is the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar a coin. That seems ordinary at first glance, but reveals a rich and layered history upon closer inspection. Now let us begin our deep journey into the story of the 1973 half-dollar a coin, born out of grief commemorating a fallen president, and carrying within its surface a mirror of the nation's shifting values, its economic concerns, and its numismatic surprises. The Kennedy half-dollar was first issued in 1964, just months after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. The American people were devastated by the loss, and in a move of collective tribute, Congress authorized the creation of a 50-cent coin, bearing his image sculpted by chief engraver Gilroy Roberts. The obverse design features a left-facing profile of President Kennedy, with clean, sharp lines representing youth strength and idealism. The reverse, created by Frank Gasparo, shows the presidential seal, with an eagle holding an olive branch, and arrows symbolizing peace and defense for the year 1973. The Kennedy half-dollar was minted in two main locations, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint, with no mint mark and AD mint mark. Respectively, the total mintage was over 80 million coins, making it a widely distributed coin. But here is where the details begin to matter. While the coin was not struck in silver for circulation anymore, as silver was eliminated from half-dollar production, in 1971, certain special issues and collector sets may hold greater value, especially in high-grade conditions, proof strikes, and coins with mint errors. These Kennedy half-dollars are made from a copper nickel-clad composition, a far cry from their silver predecessors of the 60s, which used 90% silver in their alloy. Still, this does not diminish the importance or interest of the coin to collectors. Rather, it opens up a new chapter in the story of American coinage, a shift from precious metal to industrial practicality, driven by rising silver prices and increasing coin usage. 1973 is notable because, unlike other years, there were no half-dollars released for general circulation in the United States, meaning most of the half-dollars minted in this year were produced for collector sets. This makes it a special year in the series where acquiring a circulation strike is harder than usual. Collectors had to purchase mint sets or proof sets to obtain examples of the coin, and as a result, many of these coins remain in pristine uncirculated condition, creating a dual interest, both in the quality of the coin and in its limited accessibility. The Philadelphia Mint struck approximately 64 million of these coins, while the Denver Mint produced around 83 million, and San Francisco handled proof coin production. These figures appear high, but once we understand that they were not distributed for daily use, the rarity of finding a circulated example becomes much clearer and more intriguing, especially for treasure hunters and collectors trying to find one in a coin roll or inherited collection. This is only the beginning of the story, because we now move deeper into the die varieties, errors, grading scales, auction records, and collector interest that surrounds the 1973 half-dollar we examine. Doubled dies, strike-through errors, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and other dramatic minting mistakes that can turn an ordinary 50-cent piece into a valuable numismatic prize, and we explore the world of coin grading services such as PCGS and NGC to understand how a high-grade MEM67 or Proof 70 coin can dramatically affect the price of this coin in auctions and private sales. While a typical circulated example may be worth face value or slightly more, a high-grade certified coin can be valued at hundreds of dollars, with some proof coins in perfect condition commanding even higher prices. The sharpness of the strike, the strength of the luster, the presence of clean fields and the absence of contact marks all factor into the final grading result. Collectors often seek out these high-grade examples to complete their Kennedy half-dollar sets, especially those seeking registry competition placement. On top of this, collectors are also interested in the so-called no FG variety, where the designer initials FG for Frank Gasparo are missing from the reverse of the coin. This variety, caused by excessive polishing of the dies, can increase the desirability and value of a coin significantly, and collectors constantly search their coins to locate one of these elusive no-FG pieces. As we continue our exploration, we now examine how the Kennedy half-dollar series as a whole fits into the larger scope of U.S. coinage history, beginning in 1964, with a composition of 90% silver, transitioning to 40% silver from 1965 to 1970, and finally to the copper-nickel-clad formula from 1971 onward. The Kennedy series reflects the economic pressures of the time, including the removal of silver from circulating coinage and the need to supply a rapidly growing economy with durable, cost-effective money. The 1973 issue is a perfect representation of this shift because it was produced entirely in copper-nickel-clad for non-circulation purposes, emphasizing its place as a collector-focused release. We can now turn to the numismatic community and their opinions about this coin. Some collectors consider the 1973 Kennedy half-dollar to be underrated due to its high mintage numbers, but experienced numismatists recognize the low survival rate in pristine condition and the difficulty of finding certified high-grade examples with strong eye appeal and clean surfaces. These factors make the coin more valuable in certain market cycles, especially when demand for Kennedy halves rises due to anniversaries, auctions, or public interest generated by articles, documentaries, or videos just like this one. We also explore the stories of individuals who have inherited 1973 half-dollars from parents or grandparents and sought to understand whether they possess something valuable or sentimental. These stories often highlight the emotional connection people feel toward the Kennedy coin, because it represents not only history, but family tradition and remembrance. Many of these coins are stored in old albums, cigar boxes, jars, or drawers, and when discovered, reignite curiosity and numismatics among new generations. This coin's educational power cannot be overstated. Teachers, historians, and collectors use it to explain everything from presidential history and minting technology to monetary policy and inflation. Its unique design connection to American tragedy and restricted release for 1973 make it a perfect candidate for museum exhibits, school lessons, and collecting guides.